I'm going to call, can I call the meeting to order? We good?
Yep. You
All right. Mike says we can call the meeting to order. So I, pursuant to instructions from Mike, we're calling the meeting to order. Do we have any, we have 4 members here. We have a quorum. Do you have any appearance by members of the public?
We've had no requests for anyone to speak this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 3, consent agenda. We have 3A, approval of minutes, March 5th, 2024, regular meeting minutes. And item 3B, recommend approval of bills and transfers, if any, to the county board. Can I have a motion to approve? Motion by member Schaefer, a second by member Roseman Mendoza. I will add that the auditor has given us a letter stating that she has reviewed the bills and that she has certified that they are in compliance with McLean County Board adopted ordinances, resolutions, and policies. And does anybody have any additions or corrections to the minutes? All right, hearing none, we're going to be voting on item 3, the consent agenda, 3A and 3B. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right. Next item on the agenda is item 4, departmental matters. First item is item 4A, Kathy Yoder, McLean County Coroner. We have no items for action, but we do have an item for information, the coroner's monthly report. Ms. Yoder, would you like to address that?
I have nothing to add. If anybody has any questions, please ask.
Does any member have any questions? Member Schaefer has a question.
Could you just give me the status of what counties have a pathologist now?
I don't know what counties actually have a pathologist, but there's only 400 nationwide. Currently, McLean,
Just like Champaign, does Champaign have one now, or Sangamon?
Sangamon does and Peoria has one, but
Okay.
I think Champaign, it's up for debate.
Make me on that red, right? Red makes me on, right? Okay, good. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Anything else you'd like to add, Kathy Yoder?
No, have a good evening.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is Ron, he's not here. Oh, that's no excuse. Ron Lewis is not here today. If you have any questions about his caseload report, you can address those to the county administrator or to Mr. Lewis. Mr. Scanlon's not here either, is he? All right, Mr. Scanlon's not here. See, Member Friedrich, this is how you run a meeting. See, Bill Scanlon's not here. William Scanlon's not here. So we don't have anything to do with that one either, right? No items, okay. Next item on the agenda is item 4D, Suzanne Montoya. We have no items for action. We do have an item for information, item D2A, court services, adult juvenile division statistics. Anything you'd like to say about those?
Nope, just standard monthly statistics, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Does any member have any questions? All right, seeing none. Anything else you'd like to add?
I did want to say we do have a Veterans Court graduation on April the 30th at 3 p.m. in courtroom 5A. I know that Member Schaefer asked me about problem-solving court graduations, and I will also send the next drug court and recovery court graduations when we have those scheduled.
Could you please repeat when that is?
April 30th at 3 p.m.
Okay,
in
thank you.
5A.
In the Law and Justice Center, yep,
Correct.
yep. All right, anything else?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 4E, Erica Reynolds, our state's attorney. We have one item for action. Item 4E1A, request approval to release funds for training. And can I have a motion to approve? Motion by member Tompkins, second by member Schaefer. Ms. Reynolds, would you like to address that?
I think the memo that I provided to the committee is self-explanatory. Through statute, we are required to have certain types of specialty courts, and we've elected to have other types of specialty courts. I have, because of staffing shortages, have hired a contract attorney in order to handle that assignment on behalf of my office. In order for our specialty courts to be functioning in the state of Illinois, they are required to be certified through the AOIC. That is mandated by the state. And in order to be certified, everybody that sits on those specialty court teams are required to go attend training. There's a training that's coming up in May, the All Rise training. We're asking that the court or that the Justice Committee approve for the contract attorney to be able to go through to that training. Because of lack of funding that is typically provided through grants, it has fallen on the offices to send the representatives to that training. I have been in communication with Woodford County, who has offered to pay for a third of that training because my contract attorney serves as Woodford County's representative on the Veterans Court Specialty Court Program. And then a third of that will be covered by the courts, and that's why Will Scanlon is included as part of this request. And then a third of that will be fall on my office to provide that training. The reason I'm making this request is the auditor had indicated to the chief judge, Costigan, who is here and available for questioning if you have any, had indicated to him that there was no mechanism for the auditor to approve that, and no documentation was provided for that. My understanding is that since she has sent out an email to committee members, I can address any concerns that you guys may have regarding those arguments, but I believe that we are in sound financial and legal status to pay for this training.
Does any member have any, am I on? Does any member have any questions? Where I took the motion, right? I took the motion already. Okay, I did want to say something. In the memo on page 15 that it was addressed to us by the McLean County State's Attorney, it does state, at this time, the McLean County Auditor has taken the position that county funds may not be used to support the training of an attorney who is not a full-time employee of the state's attorney's office. This position is not supported by law, nor has the auditor cited any financial or accounting principle that prohibits such use of county funds. My decision on this is basis that legal counsel is advising me that there is no statutory or case law support for the auditor's position. So therefore, our legal counsel has advised us that we can go forward with this. So is that correct?
That is accurate. The concerns that she had raised, we did research on, and we do not believe that there's any basis for those concerns. If you want me to go into specificity regarding that, I don't have a problem doing that. I don't know how far in the weeds you want to get with this.
I don't require specificity, but I did want to get your opinion more on the record for people who may not be able to read that memo. May not get a chance to read that memo, but the state's attorney has taken a position, my opinion, a legal position on this. So that's correct, yeah.
That is accurate. One of the references that she had, or one of the concerns that she had made, was that we would be in trouble with IMRF. So I contacted the Associate General Counsel with our IMRF and had a conversation directly with them. They indicated that they are not concerned about the contributions to IMRF unless the employee is working at least 1,000 hours a year. He is nowhere near that. He probably averages 10 hours a week, if that. And that is the first factor that they look at. And then the second factor that they get to, only if the answer is that they're working over 1,000 hours, would be the analysis that the IRS goes through. So IMRF is not concerned about this at all in the slightest. And then the other reference that she had provided that she had concerns about was an IRS audit. So IRS has several factors that they look at, but ultimately it comes down to two questions: whether the person is under your work direction and control as to the time and manner of work and performance. And in this situation, the individual is only required to be in the courthouse during the specialty court times, staffing specifically. So for a little bit on Tuesday, like an hour and a half, and then for half a day on Thursday. Other than that, I don't mandate time and work. He's just required to get things done. The process looks like an individual becomes a candidate for one of the specialty courts because they're either referred by their attorney, by court services, or by the prosecutor, and then he does an analysis on whether or not that individual complies with the statute, and then it goes through, he makes the referral formally through the team, and it goes through the evaluation process. If the person is deemed appropriate for that court, then they're admitted. And then he has sole discretion on when to ultimately file a petition to revoke if the person is unsuccessful at the program, or the person proceeds forward, and then he engages in conversations whether or not somebody should get benefits that they get, incentives that they get within that program, or they should be penalized for failure to comply with the requirements of probation. And so he exercises sole discretion. And then whether the second factor that the IRS would ultimately look at is whether the person offers services to others during the same period and his or her business can experience a loss. In this particular case, the individual is a retired judge, so he doesn't have an independent business. However, he is entitled to take independent business if he wishes to. This is just essentially a retirement gig for him, so he's not working full time. But if he wanted to open up his own law practice, then he would be entitled to do that. And that's specific within his contract, that the only people he would not be entitled to represent are people that would essentially be a conflict of interest in representing in a criminal proceeding in this particular county. So aside from that, he would be entitled to represent whoever he wanted. So our belief based on that analysis is that the individual would not be deemed an employee under IRS standards. And so there was a reference that I saw in the email indicating that we cannot mandate training. And if we mandate training, then they will become a employee instead of a contractual individual. I would suggest that that's not accurate based on the analysis the IRS would engage in, but further, her suggestion that we essentially pay him more through the contract in order to compensate him to go to this training and that he would pay for it himself does not address that issue. If the issue is ultimately that I am mandating training and therefore he becomes an employee, it is irrelevant who is paying for that training. That becomes essentially an irrelevant suggestion, or she had said that she believed that would address the issue. And if the ultimate issue is we can't mandate training, then who pays for it doesn't matter. I also want to submit to the Justice Committee that I'm not mandating that he go to training. Statute mandates that he go to training. The AOIC mandates that he be trained in order to serve in this position. And then finally, the reason that I did not want to request from this Justice Committee to increase his salary is this training essentially cost us, not quite, but almost $4,000. I have come up with an option where we're going to pay the McLean County taxpayer will pay for 2/3 of that training, with Woodford County paying for the final third. If I were to just pay for that through the contractual increase, then because he is a contractual individual and not an employee, his taxes are higher. So he's paying somewhere between 40 to 50% to the state and federal in taxes. So in order to send him to this training that is around $4,000, I would have to pay him $8,000. If I'm doing that twice a year, then I am increasing his contract by $16,000 when essentially I could do this for around $2,600 twice a year, which seems inappropriate, ill-advised, and, not a steward of taxpayer dollars. So that is my position.
Okay, I just wanted to add here that I'm not counsel for the county. That's not my job. I typically rely on legal opinions from our state's attorney's office. And if someone has an opinion other than theirs, I haven't heard it yet. All I know is this memo says, this position is not supported by law, nor has the auditor cited any financial or accounting principle that prohibits such use of county funds. Until I see something otherwise, I concur. So, I mean, that's the way I see it. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call the question.
Question has been called. All right, so we voting on here. Item 4E, we're voting on item 4E1A, request approval to release funds for training. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right. I'm an aye on that too, okay. Next item on the agenda is item 4E2. This is for information, the state's attorney's caseload and forfeiture fund reports. Ms. Reynolds, anything you'd like to say about that?
This is just a standard report. I welcome any questions you may have.
Does any member have any questions? All right, anything else you'd like to add?
Knock on wood, but I believe perhaps that I am going to be fully staffed as far as attorneys go by August. I have 3 openings and commitment from 3 different individuals. So it appears as if the tides are turning. Thank you, and I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate county administration for helping in that process.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 4F, Don Everhart. I don't believe he's here. He did provide his monthly statistical reports. If any member has any questions, please direct them to our county administrator or to Mr. Everhart. Next item on the agenda is item 4G, Molly Evans, Children's Advocacy Center Director. We have one item for action, item 4G1A, request approval of a credit card expense. And can I have a motion to approve? Motion by member Roseman Mendoza, second by member Tompkins. Ms. Evans, anything you'd like to say about that?
Yes, thank you. I think my memo explains essentially what the request is for. This would be the 3rd time over the last 2 to 3 years that I've came in front of this committee to ask for approval for a credit card expense, which was purchasing gas cards for our CASA volunteers. Our auditor has taken the stance that she will not approve that and that I've been in violation of the credit card policy. She attached a memo to, I believe, to this packet that didn't provide much context, so I would like to do that if I could. For those of you who have been on this committee, you know that when I come before you, typically it's because I have a contract where I'm bringing money into the county. I think very rarely has it ever been anything besides that. In fact, I don't think I've ever came to you to ask for money. It's essentially going to you saying, these are the monies that we have been able to receive through different various grant funding streams. If you guys know anything about grants, which I know you do, there are allowable and non-allowable parts of grants. So when I apply for a grant, I have to come up with a budget. I have to look at what is allowable based on that specific grant and write that budget very specific as to what we're going to spend that money on. The Attorney General's grant, we received an increase last year. Most of my staff are funded by grants, so when that happens, I have to look for what are our needs. And one of those needs, which was allowable, was gas cards for our CASA volunteers. Ms. Anderson stated in her memo that these are gifts for our volunteers. These are not gifts. A gas card is a reimbursement. It is not a gift. There is no federal, state, local grant that is going to allow us to purchase gifts for our volunteers. So I think we need to be clear about what the purpose of this is. My only other option here is one, to find a gas station that would invoice me for $900 worth of gift cards, which is not going to happen. So you can only imagine what it's like when I walk into a gas station to try to purchase $900 worth of gift cards in $10 increments. They're not happy, nor are they going to provide me an invoice. My other option is to make our 30, 60, 90 different CASA volunteers vendors with the county. So where they would have to submit mileage through travel reimbursements when they travel outside of the county. I have a hard enough time trying to explain to my staff why their travel reimbursements are not approved in a timely manner. I do not think that that is something that would be useful for our CASA volunteers. Okay, so this is something that has been approved for the last 3 years. It continues to be a problem with the auditor. I do agree with one thing that was said in the memo, which was that some sort of conclusion or changes needs to be made with this process, because as a department, we function very differently than those that pull from the general fund. We have grant funds that require us to spend things a certain way, which might be different than what code says. So I'm not going to solve that problem, but I hope that it's taken into consideration for the future, because it shouldn't be this difficult to make purchases that are not being used any sort of county funds at all. All of the funds that we use through our grants are 100% reimbursed back to the county. Happy to answer any questions about that.
Thank you. Does any member have any questions?
Yes,
Member
Mr. Chairman,
Tompkins?
is there a process or that we could undertake to simplify this going forward so she doesn't have to come back every year with this?
Do you want to address that?
I can think of two different processes that could be utilized to simplify this for this particular issue. The first would be to change code so that our credit card authorization form allows for more flexibility with grant funds. The second option is the one that the auditor presented as an option, and that is to come up with some other type of payment methods, by check possibly, for those gas stations that provide the gift cards. And so those are the two proposals that have been suggested.
Any other questions? Member Schaefer?
So how many volunteers do you have?
I believe currently we are right over 100 volunteers. And for the most part, they don't travel outside of McLean County, but we have several kids that may have been placed outside of county limits, and a requirement of the CASA program is that volunteer is seeing them in person monthly. So some of them are placed in Chicago, some are in Southern Illinois. That can create a hardship for our volunteers, who are volunteers, to then have to turn around and pay for their own gas to make those visits.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we are voting on item 4G1, request approval of credit card expense. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, next item on the agenda is item 4G2. This is an item for information. It is the Children Advocacy Center Director's monthly report. Ms. Evans, would you like to address that?
I have nothing further with regard to the monthly report.
Any questions about the monthly reports? Anything else you'd like to add?
I did want to add just two different things. One, April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. I believe that Julie sent out some information to all board members about different events that the Children's Advocacy Center has in place for the month. Also, I'd like to address that, as it was stated in Ms. Anderson's memo, I have taken a position outside of the county, and I will be leaving as the executive director as of May 10th. I will be heading to Children's Advocacy Centers of Illinois. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity to serve in this capacity for the last 6 years, and thank county administration as well.
Any member want to say anything? Thank you for your service. Member Schaefer.
So is this your last Justice Committee meeting?
No, I'll be here through May.
Okay. We can say goodbye next month.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Any other member? All right, thank you, Ms. Evans. Next item on the agenda is item 4H, Matt Lane, the McLean County Sheriff. We have one item for action, item 4H1A, request approval of Merit Commission reimbursement increase. And can I have a motion to approve? Motion by Member Tompkins, second by Member Schaefer. Sheriff Lane, would you like to address that?
Yes, since the 90s, our Sheriff's Merit Commission, who does, by statute, our testing and hiring, the process for us, they've been getting $40 per meeting since the 90s. We took a look at it, and as your memo will tell you, it's quite a bit, it should be quite a bit more. Right now, we can absorb, we believe, an increase of $10 per meeting for the rest of this year, and then next year budget for a larger increase. I think their meeting numbers will go down over the next year due to the hiring, hopefully being able to slow down. But I think it's appropriate to give these folks a little bit more for their time. They've spent a whole lot of time. If you consider the hundreds of background checks that we've done over the last year and a half, they had to interview each one of those people and provide the testing for those folks. It's a lot of people, a lot of meetings they've attended. So I'd like to give them an updated salary for that.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
According to the Federal Reserve website, $40 in 1990 is $94.27 today.
Does any member have any questions of Sheriff Lane? All right, seeing none, we will be voting on item 4H1A, request approval of Merit Commission reimbursement increase. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, next item on the agenda are items for information. Item 4H2A, reclass reorganization. Sheriff Lane, would you like to address that?
Yes, sir. Since before I became sheriff, it's been very noticeable. There is a need for a third assistant administrator in the jail, in the corrections side. Not one of so I have a superintendent and 2 assistants right now. Not one of those people, since I've been there, have worked a 40-hour week. It's more like 60 or more. And when I sat down before I took office, and when I first took office, we discussed this. And the fact is, one of my goals was to get them more assistance. And due to PFA and the different rules that we're going by, the more movement in the jail every day, and the fact that we have a lot of mental health issues that have to be addressed and supervised in the corrections side, I need this third assistant in order to proceed and succeed in that corrections atmosphere. I think that answers the question, but does anybody have any questions?
Does any member have a question of Sheriff Lane?
Yes, sir. Would this position come from internally, or would you seek someone from outside the department to fill it?
It would be internally, so it would be a promotion. Typically, it's a sergeant promoted to an assistant superintendent. At this point, it's a reclass. We're taking an administrative, an AS3 position that we currently have open, and we're going to move that to a superintendent position and use the money from that AS3 towards that position. So it's not a new position for the sheriff's office, but it is a reorganization and, different use of that money. Yes, ma'am.
Member Schaefer.
So this would be an assistant to Diane?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. They're also on call. There's one of these assistance is on call every day of the week. So they rotate back and forth, maybe take a week and then a week off and a week and week off. I would like to give them some more time to themselves, a little more freedom for when they are off work. And adding a third person to that mix would be quite the relief for them.
Any other questions? All right, that's an item for information. Thank you, Sheriff Lane. Next item for information is item 4H2B, the Sheriff's Monthly Statistical Report. Sheriff Lane, would you like to address that?
I have nothing to add to that unless someone has questions.
Does any member have any questions? All right, seeing none. Anything else you'd like to say?
We do currently have approximately 12 people that are either unfit to stand trial or not guilty by reason of insanity that are waiting for DHS. My longest wait until yesterday was July of '23. That person was scheduled to leave and go to a facility yesterday, and I believe that did happen. The longest wait at this point is October 17th of '23. The good news out of all that, well, and then I have 7 parolee warrants that are sitting there that DOC will not take until they get done with their local charges. The good news is they're interviewing as we speak. The Merit Commission is interviewing more people for the CO position. We only have 1 position left to fill, and we have 1 deputy position left to fill. That is providing that all the people still in background. So there's 3 still in background, and then 1 hopefully new hire out of this crop tonight, and we will be full. Then we have 1 new deputy. We have some individuals interviewing for that tonight also. So we're trying to send that person to the May Academy, and then we'll be full on the patrol side.
Does any member have any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you, Sheriff Lane.
Thank you.
Last but not least, our last item on the agenda is item 4I1A, Cassie Taylor, our county administrator. We have no items for action, but anything you'd like to say?
Just thank you for all the department heads for getting us your materials in a timely manner. This committee is served by a very dedicated group that does that every month, so thank you for that. And I have nothing else, either action or information for this committee tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is item 5, other business and communication. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. Anything anybody wants to say or add at this point? All right, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.